Hi folks, Alex Joy. It's the Patriot Gun Show. Hey, today's episode we have a special guest, Alex Kincaid of Infringed. Is going to be joining us. We're going to talk gun rights. We're going to talk current events, all kinds of stuff. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Patriot Gun Show.
Hi folks, Alex Joy, Patriot Pawn and Gun and the Patriot Gun Show. And today I have a special guest. This woman, I call her the gun rights goddess guru.
I like that title.
Alexandria Kincaid. Now, I don't know why the heck she's slumming and coming on my show. She's usually on Fox News, Fox Business show. She's a big deal. But Alex is kind enough to come in and chat with us this morning. She's local. She's a Boise attorney and a former prosecutor. And she wrote an awesome book, and it's called Infringed. Now, I have, not to brag, but bragging, I have a personal signed copy because I'm special. Anyways, Alex
You
Kincaid.
are special, Alex.
I'm special. Welcome to Patriot Gun Show.
Thanks for having me on. This is kind of like your Alex and Alex episode.
It is
right?
Alex and
I
Alex,
love it.
Alex
Yeah.
squared. Now this book is awesome.
It is.
And, in it you discuss how our government has slowly eroded our Second Amendment rights in the Bill of Rights over the years, and you identify those different things that they've done and that they continue to try and just chip away at our rights. And then you give practical advice for people at the grassroots level of how we can stand up and resist this government overreach and trying to infringe our rights. Can you tell us about that?
Right. Well, it is a little bit of history combined with a lot of fact. And
Awesome.
as you know, I work with gun owners and gun businesses daily. That's my job. That's what I do as a lawyer. And I'm typically trying to help people navigate this complex system of gun control that we have, because most gun owners, they know there's a lot of rules and they don't want to mess up and lose their gun rights. Nobody knows what the rules are anymore.
Absolutely. My customers are scared to death. It's like,
right?
Because the laws actually apply to us. We're not Clintons.
Exactly.
The laws apply to us.
We could go to jail.
We actually could go to jail.
We could lose our rights. And people are afraid of that. And unfortunately, I have too many people who call me after they've done something incorrectly and they want to try to fix it. Well, the law doesn't say if you commit a criminal act and then you say you're sorry and you go backwards and do it over again, that there's no more criminal act. Once it's done, it's done.
Asterisk. Unless you're a Clinton.
Unless you're
Clinton.
well, if you're a Clinton,
then you
nothing's going to happen anyway.
I didn't mean to.
So, right, I didn't mean to, or
That doesn't fly for us.
I would do it differently in the future. That doesn't work for the average person.
It does not, absolutely.
What I wanted to do with this book was, yes, help people understand the system and how it works. If you're not a Clinton, this is how it works. This is what's going on. This is how the government is passing all this gun control. And the title is Infringed because, hands down, the most common question I get is, the Constitution says shall not be infringed. Why do we have all these gun control laws?
Shall not seems pretty definitive.
It's pretty straightforward to the normal person, but once the lawyers and the judges are through with it, and Congress is through with it, and
lawyers.
President Obama is through with the word, it means something entirely different.
They twist everything around, don't they?
Right. So, history, yes, but also, what are the rules and how can you spot the issues? So I didn't just take laws from every state and dump them into the book.
Okay.
What I did is I tried to categorize for people so that if you're thinking, what is Obama talking about when he says he's going to go after people on Social Security? I describe why he can do that. What's happening at the VA? How come all of our veterans are being reported? Why is this a target area and how are they doing it? I describe the law that allows that to happen. And how we can fight back and how we can change the rules. And I think a lot of people hear about the problems afterwards, and it's like committing the criminal act and then finding out what the law is afterwards. Or you hear that a law gets passed and then you're really upset. Well, I'm trying to encourage people to understand what's going on, not break the law, and then get involved so that we can fight back and not have any more gun control laws passed in the first instance. The gun-owning community is strong, and we need to come together and be active before the laws are passed.
Amen. I have such a woman crush on this woman. That is awesome. Yeah, I feel like Chris Farley in Saturday Night Live. Remember that time that you wrote that book Infringed? It's awesome. was great.
Thank you.
So that's such good information. What, and that's really, you hit on some interesting dynamics. It's really insidious. It seems like that our government, they intentionally set up the system and they pick winners and losers. They choose who to enforce the law against.
Right.
And again, we see this example, and we already talked about, Hillary Clinton and how she gets away with everything. The law absolutely does not apply to the Clintons. It doesn't apply to most high-level big money liberal Democrats, but our government is looking for us to just step over the line one little bit so they can smack my hand. That's what I feel like as a federal firearms license holder.
Right.
I mean, I feel the burden, I feel the weight of government on my shoulders. That if I, and we're human, if we make one little mistake on a jot or tittle, the weight of the government is going to come down on me. I mean, you see this happen with these, you got these white Mormon ranchers that go and, they graze some cattle in the middle of nowhere near Harry Reid's property, and then it's rule of law.
Right.
Then it's rule of law. We have to come and bring the force of government and men with guns to come stamp that out because of rule of law.
Right.
But then we have sanctuary cities in big liberal areas that just give the middle finger to federal law. How do they justify? And then we got whole states that there's something called the Controlled Substances Act that is a federal law, and you see Malia Obama smoking pot.
Yes.
On camera, but the law doesn't apply to her.
No, and it's just amazing because it really is about who is going to enforce those laws. And when you look at the Hillary story, right, that whole phrase prosecutorial discretion came up, and Comey said no reasonable prosecutor is going to touch this case. Well, that's not.
You were a prosecutor, is that true?
I was a prosecutor for almost a decade, and that is not the situation where you would see prosecutorial misconduct used to show leniency. That is the situation where you would use it to protect this country. And you would go after that person, even if maybe in the past there had been some cases where that rule of law had not been enforced. This is a situation where someone who's in charge of the security of this nation is acting carelessly or negligently. And Congress specifically gave us that low standard, that low burden of proof in that statute, so that we could go after people who are careless or negligent with the security of the United States of America. You wouldn't, you know what I mean? So
that's an awesome point. And in my opinion, we should be using everything within the law to hold the big guys more accountable. It seems like they want to strain the net. They want to really bring the force of law on the little guy, right. and then the big guys get more leniency. It should be the reverse. We should be holding our leaders more accountable.
Well, I agree with you. And what happens with us, everyday people, trying to make a living, trying to sell firearms to people who are law-abiding citizens so that we can be armed and defend ourselves against the thugs that the authorities are allowing to run free. And I'm not talking about law enforcement because they want them locked up. I'm talking about the administration that is letting people out of prison.
Absolutely.
If you were paying attention a couple weeks ago, Obama signed pardons for many, many federally convicted felons. Many of those were gun-related crimes.
Yes.
And then they whine about gun control that they want to enforce against law-abiding Americans.
Absolutely.
Well, what you say is true. If you're in the business of selling firearms, you come under more scrutiny. There are so many rules and regulations that apply to you as a business owner above and beyond what a normal business owner needs to think about.
Oh, yes.
And the same is true of an average gun owner. And that's why I wrote this book, to try to help the gun owner navigate those rules, because even if you break the law and it turns out that you are convicted of a misdemeanor, there is very likely to be a period of probation. And during that term of probation, the judge can say, you can't have a firearm.
Wow.
So if you forget to renew a concealed carry permit, if you're traveling out of state and you don't have a concealed carry permit and you get popped for something, you might think, well, it's a misdemeanor, I'll plead guilty to this, and at least I'm not going to lose my gun rights, because everybody knows convicted felons can't have firearms. Well, while you're on probation, typically a period of a year or 2 years, you can lose your gun rights, even for a misdemeanor.
I did not know that. This woman she's like a fount of knowledge, of gun rights knowledge. She is the gun rights goddess guru.
Aw.
I love it.
Well, thank you.
So, you helped Greg Pruitt and the Idaho Second Amendment Alliance. You helped with, a major piece of legislation. Idaho's one of 9 states now that we have permitless carry. It's been about a month and a half.
Yes. And the crime rates are soaring.
Oh, yes. And people are just killing each other in the streets, like in Milwaukee and,
Same thing with the campus carry bill, if you remember when that was passed into law.
Yes.
And there was all this outrage about, oh my goodness, now we're going to have guns on campus and
Gunmageddon.
kids are going to be shooting each other.
Gunmageddon. Yeah.
Permitless carry is not affecting the laws that say the criminals can't carry guns or the mentally ill can't carry guns.
Absolutely.
It is allowing us, the law-abiding Americans, to carry firearms without getting special government permission to do so. So, it's the same people who have guns. It's just a matter of whether you have that little card or not. And
Absolutely.
yes, crime rates have not gone up.
People are not killing each other in the streets, remarkably. I don't know how it's happening, but supposedly since, the anti-gun left was saying that basically that once we pass that law, then it was going to be the Wild West and everybody's going to be shooting each other. It just hasn't happened because you know what? Like Alex said, that's not who we are. The law-abiding gun owners, we follow the laws. It's all the criminals who already have the guns who don't follow the laws. Everybody knows that. It's purely political, but we got to keep dispelling the myth over and over, and we will. Infringed. I have signed copies here at Patriot Pawn and Gun, little plug. You buy a gun, I'm giving you a free copy. That's the way it's going to work here for quite a while. So
And there's lots of guns here, too.
There's lots of guns here, and Alex can always print more books. Alex, awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Keep up the good work. We're going to take a break. We'll come back next segment, and we're going to talk about some more stuff. See ya.
That a flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave? Oh, the land of the free and the home of the brave.
This is the Patriot Gun Show.
Hi, folks. We're back. It's Alex Joy, Patriot Gun Show, Patriot Pawn and Gun here with the gun rights goddess guru, Alex Kincaid. Last segment, we talked about her book, Infringed. This segment, we're going to talk Olympics, and we're going to talk how that gun control is working in Brazil.
Right, it's working great, isn't it?
It's
Fabulous.
working wonderful. So, I'm a Facebook addict, and I'm going through, watching Facebook the other day, and this article pops up that Ryan Lochte, a very famous U.S. swimmer, Olympic gold medalist many times over, he gets held up at gunpoint in Rio.
Right.
Literally has a gun put to his head, and they rob him. But my initial reaction is this can't be because Brazil it's a massive gun-free zone.
Well, we all know when guns are illegal that there will be no gun crime, right?
Yeah,
I mean, you
absolutely.
make them illegal, then there are no guns.
He must be
That's
lying.
the way it works.
He must be lying. It must not have been a gun. Brian, you're wrong. That could not have been a gun. Brazil is a massive gun-free zone. Brazil's laws, they have, they make it so, and this is their law. You have to be 25 years old to apply for a gun license there, and you have to have some connection to the law enforcement or military community.
Right.
Then if the government approves you to have this gun and gun license, you can only keep the gun in your home. You can't take it out into public. So essentially Brazil is an entire country that is a gun-free zone. Yet they have 58,000 murders per year in Brazil. That's over twice the United States.
They lead the world. They're certainly in the top countries leading the world in homicide rates and in violent crime rates. And it's not just Brazil. I mean, we've seen this around the world with the gun control countries. Australia, Great Britain.
Yep.
Look, these are places where guns have been banned. You are not allowed to have a firearm to defend yourself, and yet violent crime soars.
It does. I just recently, Jed and I, we went and did a thing. My cousin Matt Damon came to town promoting his gun violence movie, Jason Bourne, and we did a little sneak attack on him, and we confronted him. Turns out Matt doesn't like them apples, but he touts the example of Australia as, hey, that gun ban is, we need to do that here in the U.S. Well, you know what? The data just doesn't support that claim. The very next year after the gun ban, crime went up in Australia. And if you look at the crime statistics, and we actually follow this stuff. We don't just make statements and then not back it up with facts and research and data. The rapes have gone up.
Right.
Crime has stayed essentially the same. They have 11 mass murders since the gun ban, and these guys are still using guns.
Right.
And then some of them, okay, they don't have a gun, they're using knives to commit the mass murders, or they're using arson and fire. It has not affected crime at all. In fact, crime has gone up a little. So this gun ban doesn't work, yet they keep trotting this kind of stuff out.
Well, because they think they can skew those statistics, right? And anyone who's had any rudimentary teaching or understanding of statistics understands that there are ways to use those figures to make your point, no matter what your point is. And of course, that's what the media is doing. So it's very important when you're reading something on the internet, you're looking at Facebook, whatever it is you do, and you're reading an article that sounds like, oh, we banned guns and this was a good thing. You better stop and read how they are skewing those statistics, because they are. Because there are no statistics that support banning guns and lowering crime. It hasn't happened. In fact, the opposite is what happens. And so even our nation's leaders, right, they're touting this gun control and, oh, look around the world, and America's leading the nation in gun violence, and making all kinds of claims about that. Those statements have been refuted. They've been refuted by John Lott's Crime Prevention Research Center.
Absolutely. More guns, less crime.
Exactly. They've been refuted by Politico, the fact checker.
Yeah.
And if I wrote an article on international gun laws a few months ago,
awesome.
where I looked around the world and I looked at the gun laws and I looked at the crime rates. And if you look per capita, so now we're not just talking about the total number of murders. We're looking at the total number of murders, or the total number of rapes, or the total number of robberies against the population. Let's make the figures fit how big the country is population-wise. And all of a sudden, those facts look very, very
They tell a different story, because now you're dealing with them in context.
Right.
And you're applying critical thinking and logic and reason.
Right.
Liberals are that's like anathema to them.
Liberals don't like facts.
They don't like facts, and they don't like critical thinking and logic. It's very scary to them. Yeah, they like spin, and they like to twist facts to fit their narrative.
They want you to read and believe and not think about it.
Absolutely.
So if you take another country like Switzerland, Switzerland's been brought up a lot.
Yes.
Realize, first of all, that Switzerland is not as gun-friendly as they used to be. Their laws changed a couple of years ago, and they almost lost a lot of their gun rights by a very, very narrow margin. The bill failed to pass in Switzerland, but they still have some of the most liberal gun laws around the world, and guess what? They also have the lowest crime rates.
Low crime.
Exactly.
And Switzerland, isn't it? It's my understanding that each adult is required as part of their national security plan to have an assault rifle in their home. Is that Switzerland?
Yes, that was Switzerland. In 2013, the laws changed a little bit.
Okay.
You can still have those rifles, but some of those requirements have gone away. So
gotcha. So it's no longer required, but you can still have them.
Yeah, and you can't have things like a Howitzer anymore. It used to be you could have anything.
I want a Howitzer, and I want an M1 Abrams.
Right. Yeah.
If it hit the fan.
The fun stuff.
Yeah,
the fun stuff.
I want the fun stuff.
Point being, it's a very safe place. And in fact, I was there with my husband just last year. And within 5 minutes of leaving our hotel room, we went out for a walk the first morning we were in Switzerland. And there was a guy walking up the street with a rifle slung over his back,
shoulder.
and I'm like, can I take a picture of this guy, or is he going to freak out? Because I knew I was going to use some of this in my writing, and I thought it'd be an awesome picture. But the point is, nobody was freaking out. Nobody was concerned. Nobody even took a second glance except me.
And the gun didn't just jump off the guy's shoulder and start shooting people
through the middle of town, walking with a rifle.
That rifle's dangerous. I mean, it's liable to just on its own just start shooting everybody. That's kind of what the liberal anti-gun folks would like you to think, is that guns are animate objects with consciousness and a free, and the free will, and they'll just start doing it. No, it's the person, behind the trigger that's the problem. That's always been the problem. It doesn't matter, back in the day we were killing people with rocks, and then we developed other killing instruments, and it's not the tool, it's the human being, it's us.
Well, and look in Europe, right? So the terrorists are even deviating from the firearms. Number one, they're not obeying the gun laws. Shocking, I know, but they're not doing it.
France is a gun-free zone.
Right, exactly.
How are these terrorists getting AK-47s to mow people down? I thought gun bans prevent bad guys from getting.
And that's the
guns.
other point. So with the firearm control laws in Brazil and in other countries, like South Africa is another example, okay? Illegal firearms have skyrocketed. So the guns aren't going away. They're just people are keeping them illegally.
Just saw a study in the U.S. that they did. Just saw a study on Facebook in the U.S. where they asserted and proved the exact same thing.
Mm-hmm.
The U.S. does not have a gun problem. It has an illegal gun problem.
Correct.
And you know, if the Democrats, if the anti-gun liberal Democrats, and we're going to keep beating this drum, if they're ever really serious about reducing gun violence, they'll focus on their own big urban liberal Democrat cities that they've controlled for decades. Places like Detroit, Chicago, Washington, D.C., Los Angeles, Oakland, Baltimore. I mean, across the board, there's one if you show me, if you tell me that is a large urban city controlled by Democrats for decades, I will show you a place where you have off the charts gun violence.
Absolutely.
And most of those guns are illegal guns because these underage gangbangers and criminals, they got the guns.
Right, and they don't care what the law says.
They don't care what the law says. And if the anti-gun liberals are really serious about curbing gun control, then close the southern border. You got gangs like MS-13 and the drug cartels running illegal guns and drugs back and forth across our open, porous southern border every day. It is, and I say this all the time, it's as easy to buy crack cocaine on the streets as it is to buy a gun illegally. Now, legally, you got to come into my shop. I got to put you through all this rigmarole. You got to fill out forms. I got to practically take blood from you, and we got to run you through the FBI NICS background check process. And there is a lot of regulation and weight to bear on you, the law-abiding citizen, to get a gun, but not, you know, Johnny Jihad or not, you know, Mr. Gangbanger there in Detroit. They just go down the street and they buy a gun illegally, no problem.
Or they drive a truck and kill 100 people.
There you go, an assault truck. What are we going to ban next? We had that jihadi in France. Not even a gun. He just he got behind the wheel of an assault truck and killed a bunch of people and kept killing them. So what are we going to do next? Ban assault trucks? You know, call it an assault truck.
Machetes, knives. They're using everything.
Pressure cookers in the Boston Marathon massacre. On and on and on. It's just it gets to a point where it's laughable and ridiculous. So you and I off camera. This morning, we're talking a little bit about what. So you know, I'm a guy that argues that you know, obviously we both agree that guns are not the problem.
Right.
Guns are inanimate objects. It's a people problem.
It's a people problem.
And that the more gun laws you pass, that's not going to take the guns away from the guys that you have to worry about. All it's going to do is take the guns away from the good guys.
Correct.
My premise, after doing my research, and again, I have a worthy opponent here, and I welcome the pushback, is that the issue is cultural. I did some research, as I'm prone to do, and I looked at all kinds of things, trying to find out what is constant and what is a variable. In a lot of online arguments, you know, the anti-gun liberals are like, oh, it's poverty. They want to blame gun crime on poverty. And then I'm like, yeah, but rural Idaho is one of the poorest parts of our nation, and we have the lowest gun crime. In fact, Boise, which is not, you know, poor, but Boise was just named the safest city in America recently. Rural Idaho has virtually no gun crime, very, very poor. So you can, and you know, I can cite example after example where poverty is not a constant. So then it's like, okay, well, if it's not poverty, then what is it? My contention is that it's culture. It's cultural. You look at a nation like Japan. Japan has very low gun crime. Okay, it's a very tight, very disciplined culture. And yes, they do have strict gun control laws, but you could have no gun control laws in Japan and crime would be low because it's a very, very good culture. Denmark, Norway, places like that are often touted by anti-gun liberals. Oh, well, they have some gun control laws and they're low crime. You know what? You could have no laws in those places and they'd have low crime because it's a very good culture. Now you go to Rio in Brazil, different culture. You go to Mexico City, different culture. There's a lot of gangs there. There's a lot of criminal element there. Yes, there's poverty too, but there's this gang crime culture. You go to Detroit, you go to Southside in Chicago, you got that same gang crime culture. And wherever I see this gang crime culture, I see illegal guns and I see high gun violence.
High crime rate.
What do you think it is?
I think it's part culture.
Okay.
But I also think that when we were talking earlier, we were talking specifically about firearms. And I don't think that culture is responsible for firearms-related crimes necessarily. I look at the overall violent crime rate.
Okay.
So, because if you have a country that is banning guns, people may still be violent. And we see that, Great Britain is a perfect example of that. Brazil is a perfect example of that. So it's not necessarily that people are, have increasing the gun crimes necessarily, but they're overall crimes. And with that, I do agree to a certain degree that could be cultural because it is gangs. It is, in certain cases, it's religion related. If you look at terrorism, okay, it's the way that people think and what they believe. Poverty is ridiculous. That's not the cause. Mm-hmm. I think certainly there can be bad people within an impoverished community who think that they are entitled to something. But I think that word entitlement is a big problem because
and even that entitlement mentality is cultural.
Exactly.
It's something something the political community has interjected into that culture and put a chip on their shoulder and said, you're entitled.
Exactly. And we are seeing that growing entitlement mentality in the United States of America as well with the younger generation. I mean, we talk about this quite a bit, and it's this whole rise of socialism/communism, and the young generation thinking that they are entitled, and that's a problem. It's a problem for violent crime, as you point out. I would agree with you in that. Mm-hmm.
Well, see, I guess we do agree more than
we originally thought.
I agree that Alex is awesome. That's what I agree with.
So is this Alex?
I'm just a big dork who sells guns.
Which is a good cause.
It is a good cause. All right, folks. We'll see you next segment. Good morning, folks. Alex Joy, Patriot Pawn and Gun. I'm here with Summit Firearms this morning. We're at the George Norse Range in Nampa. It is one glorious morning. Look at this, huh? So they are in the process of f***ing me, so I'm going to be out here today working with some guys that are a whole lot better at this stuff than I am. There's the Master Jedi, that's Yoda over there. He kind of looks like Boba Fett this morning. Look at all that gear on him. But these guys are some serious shooters, and if you want to get trained by NRA certified instructors, these guys are competition level shooters. They know what they're doing. And you'll watch my progress because they're slowly fixing me. But this is what it's all about. You want to come out to Summit Firearms and you want to get trained. You've got the guns, okay? You got a bunch of guns in your closet. Now it's time to get them out and get off your ass and get to class. It's one thing to own guns. It's another thing to know how to operate them. So that's what we're here doing today. Summit Firearms, Patriot Pawn and Gun, Arcade Gunsmithing. See ya.
This is the Patriot Gun Show.
Hi folks, Alex Joy, Patriot Gun Show, Patriot Pawn and Gun, Alex Kincaid, Infringed. Off camera, Jed just gave me some pretty sobering news. I mean, recently we did this whole kind of Matt Damon, my cousin Matt Damon, an ambush there when he did his red carpet premiere at the Village in Idaho, and Jed got word that there was two snipers on the roof there. Probably trained on me because they were quite nervous about me confronting Matt. And I got the security guy going through my bag, and trying to engage me. And I told him it's an assault microphone. Just relax. Yeah. That's kind of, So here we've got Matt Damon making millions and millions of dollars, and his main gig is gun violence, selling gun violence. And they checked us it was like worse than going through an airport. I mean, they were wanting us and checking us and searching us on the way in. And you walk in and it's like a head of state. I'm looking around and I'll go, there's a G-man, there's a G-man, there's an armed guard, there's an armed guard, there's a cop.
So he does like his guns.
Oh,
a little bit.
The dude was surrounded.
As long as they're protecting him.
He's surrounded by guns protecting him. And they got two snipers on the roof.
Just another liberal hypocrite,
But wants to take away our guns.
Right, exactly.
Doesn't want us to have guns, just wants his sniper team to have guns.
Right.
To protect his white liberal ass. Yeah, not good. And kind of shame on you guys, man. That's terrible. That's terrible. You want to take away my gun rights, and you're going to have snipers on the roof because I'm so dangerous with the microphone, and the other Tea Party folks that were there protesting them are so dangerous. Bullshit.
You're dangerous.
Total bullshit.
Because you're bringing out the truth.
The pen is mightier than the sword.
You are dangerous.
The pen is mightier than the sword. All right, folks. We'll be right back.
Get smoking hot deals at Patriot Pawn and Gun.
Hey Slacker, wake up, it's time to shoot the commercial. I got the models ready and on a budget, just like you asked.
Okay, our guys aren't angels, but our deals on guns, tools, jewelry, and electronics are smoking hot. Patriot Pod and Gun. We've got the hot deals you've been dreaming of.
This is the Patriot Gun Show.
Hi folks, Alex Joy, we're back. Alex and Alex, we're talking gun rights, we're talking about current events and all kinds of stuff. Look what we got in the news again.
We have lots of current
We got
events.
lots of current events. What is going on in Milwaukee? What the heck is wrong with these people? We got a black police chief.
Right. At least they used a black police chief. You know, here we are.
We got a black cop. And the black cop shoots an armed black criminal.
And they're complaining.
And the Black Lives Matters domestic terrorists are out burning the city down because slavery and racism. It absolutely makes no sense. What's going on here?
Well, it's like Freddie Gray, right? I brought that up a little
Yes.
bit earlier. So we have a couple of defendants who are black cops. We have a black prosecutor. We have a black judge, and yet something's wrong with the system in their book.
And yet it's evil
it's
Whitey, and that's the problem. And again,
Right.
folks, we love our black brothers and sisters, our black American, fellow citizens. We got, and slavery was wrong, all of that. Martin Luther King was a righteous man. He corrected some things that needed to be corrected in our society. And there were some major problems that our system had to deal with, and we had to repent of some sins. But come on, today you're seriously going to go burn down your own city and riot and be domestic terrorists when a black police chief's black police officer rightly defends himself against a black perp with a gun, and you're going to blame slavery and racism to commit domestic terrorism and burn your city down? Come on, people. What's going on? I don't understand it. And again, the Freddie Gray thing, same type of dynamic. And all those officers got exonerated.
Right.
And then those same Black Lives Matters domestic terrorists want to say they still want to blame the system.
You know what you said earlier about culture, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so here I think we're seeing another fine example of how culture, and you get stuck on a belief system, and people don't want to deviate from that belief system. They're bonded by that belief system. And they see a black person get shot nowadays, and it's almost as if every one of those in their minds is unjustified, no matter who's doing the shooting, no matter what the person has done, no matter, if they were pointing a gun at a police officer, oh my goodness. And
Absolutely.
I feel for our law enforcement who, can you imagine putting your life on the line every day like they do, and now they have to fear the repercussions and being wrongfully prosecuted, as in the Freddie Gray cases, because those officers should never have been prosecuted to begin with. And they have to watch and worry about all of that on top of just staying alive each and every day. And I think,
Terrible dynamic.
how are we going to change that thinking? I am friends with lots of black people. I know black people who see this and are embarrassed and ashamed, and
Yes,
they think it's
me too.
wrong.
Yeah.
But how are we going to help the communities that are inundated with this Black Lives Matter type of thinking?
Yeah, and it's an ideology. I mean, it really is. And it's a culture thing. Yeah, and I've got a lot of black friends, too, who look at it and cringe. And they go, wow, that's wrong. So that's good. And we encourage more of the, our black friends to speak up within their own community. It's hard for, I understand. The young black guy in Detroit doesn't want to hear from a couple of whitey, crackers like me and Alex here. So I think it's really incumbent on the good black folks like a Sheriff Clark, like an Alan West,
Right.
Like a Colonel Alan West, and like some of these other, and, like a Derek Bowles here locally in Boise. The guy's an awesome dude. So I think it's incumbent on the black community itself to go in and address its own cultural problems, because they're just, and I understand that there are things in our society that black folks have to overcome that you and I don't face. Absolutely true. There are still pockets of legitimate racism. Absolutely true. But now we're seeing that pendulum swing back the other way, where you're seeing these black supremacists. I mean,
Well,
and where they're asserting that, that everybody owes them something, and that they're superior to, white folks and other races. No, the KKK is bad, and they're smaller and smaller. They're shrinking. They have no power. They have no voice, and white folks, we're opposed to the KKK in general massively. They're a joke. They're an anathema to, most white folks. But now you see this BLM, this Black Lives Matters ideology on the rise, where it's almost they're targeting white folks. They're chasing down. I watched a video online. It was terrible watching them beat the crap out of this young white guy, a mob of black young men, and singled him out because he's white. That's a lynching. That's a modern day lynching because the guy's white. And it was wrong back then. It's wrong today. Now the script has flipped.
And those violent crimes aren't publicized like some of the other crimes are, where we have the black victims,
Yes.
because y'all see a little thing. You mentioned Facebook earlier, a little blip on Facebook about a girl who was raped by a gang, or
Yes.
somebody was murdered, or the case that you're talking about. But it's not out there and publicized.
You don't see the mainstream
way-
media covering this like they do when the black guy gets shot.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
it's kind of covered up. And I don't know if that's due to, of course, people want drama. TV's all about drama. Radio's all about drama. It's not necessarily about the facts.
Absolutely. It's politics. It's politics and propaganda and narrative. The liberal media is a very powerful tool for the liberal Democrat agenda because they're able to pick and choose what they want to hyper-focus on. And they'll just tout, they'll just show every time a black dude is killed and they ignore all this other stuff. And then oftentimes, it's gotten to the point it's so ridiculous, you could see a young black gangbanger shooting himself and they'd say, it's the NRA, it's slavery, it's white racism. That's just because that's their narrative, and they're going to cherry pick the data, they're going to cherry pick examples to continue to feed that narrative and to continue to preach, which they're really preaching hate. Black Lives Matters is a hate group. It is a hate organization. It's terrible, and we need to resist that as much as we need to resist the KKK and other white supremacist groups that preach hate as well.
Exactly. Yes.
All right, folks. Alex and Alex will be right back.
Get smoking hot deals at Patriot Pod and Gun. We've got guns, and gear because America. Get your MacGyver on. Bling your Beyonce. Buy your kids a babysitter. Cool stuff. Smoking low prices. That's what we do. Patriot Pod and Gun. We've got the hot deals you've been dreaming of.
This is the Patriot Gun Show.
Hi guys, we're back. Alex and Alex. We're still talking all kinds of current events and just having a generally good time. I got my woman crush here, the goddess. It feels like an episode of Wayne's World for me. It's like I'm not worthy. Dilu. She's awesome. She rocks. Thanks again for coming on. We're going to talk now about something more local. Okay,
Sure.
This is something that I got involved in a while ago. It's the Islamic refugee issue in Twin Falls. Last year, I went to a CSI board meeting and I spoke in opposition to this program that they kind of run
Good
through
for you.
CSI.
Good
And yeah, and it was it was interesting. It was a packed boardroom, and I was one of the lone opposition voices and had to go right after this Iranian woman who was saying that everybody's a racist who opposes Islam and this, that, or the other.
Wow.
And so I walk up to the podium, and they didn't know who I was, and they didn't know what position I was going to take. And I paused for effect, and I kind of turned around and I looked at her, and I was like, it's very interesting that I had to come back to a college to learn something new today. And I paused to draw people in. I said, I never knew that Islam was a race. I always thought it was an ideology and a religion and a philosophy.
Right.
I'm trying to find that race called Islam, because it's not a race. You can't be racist against Islam. Islam is an ideology. There are tons of white European Islamic ideologues.
Sure.
The vast majority are Asians in places like Bangladesh. Then, you go way down the list. Then you got Persians. You got people as white as I am that are Islamic ideologues. And then way down the list you have Arabs. But they want to say it's racism, it's race, this, race, that. Stupid. It's like saying this is a TV. That's not a TV, that's a book, okay? Islam is an ideology. Now, so we got this issue in Twin Falls where you got this millionaire, actually he's a billionaire, this dude that started Chobani. He's come into this area, he spends millions of dollars in the community, opens this big-ass factory, making Greek yogurt. And he's also very much pro-Islam. And he is dumping tons of money into this community and tons of money into the Islamic Refugee Program. Mm-hmm. In doing some research, I found out that these refugee programs, they're like a cottage industry. We've got these groups locally in Boise that they get tons, millions of dollars, something like $13 million of U.S. taxpayer-funded grant money through our government to run these programs. And so it's like they get all this money. They're spending all this money. They need these refugees to come over. So now they've got a buddy over there in Chobani and Twin Falls as like a place to put these people. And they've created this pipeline where they're bringing over more and more Islamic refugees. And now they want to bring some Syrian refugees in. I went after that Twin Falls board meeting. Obama sent some of his deputy director level guys to go to the auditorium at CSI and do a big PR dog and pony show where they were touting the virtues of this Islamic refugee program. And there was a ton of people that showed up. Most were in favor, and there was some lone opposition, and it was just such a, I'm a student of rhetoric. It was such bullshit. To be frank, they were just touting how this is, going to save the world and, stem the tides, the ocean and stop global warming and the whole bit. It was that sickening. And then the underlying narrative underneath that was that if you oppose this, you're a racist.
Right.
That's what they always do.
Right.
So flash forward, we've got an example a couple months ago, where these Islamic young men, 14, 10, and 7, they raped a 5-year-old little girl and they videoed it. Idaho statesman right away says, the story's false. Story's false. WND is, it's all lies. We find out later, after some national pressure gets put on the situation, that yes, the 14, 10, and 7-year-old boy did actually rape this 5-year-old little girl. It was videoed. They weren't Syrian refugees. They were from Iraq and Sudan and Islamic. Okay, so still an underlying truth. So then we flash forward to very much more recently. During that story, you had the local liberal media trying to strain the gnat and swallow the camel. They wanted to downplay the facts that there's some major issues with some of these Islamic ideologues that have been brought in, and they held this guy up as an example. They touted him as being, this guy is a shining example of the refugee program. His name is Mohammed Hussein Ibrahim Eldai. And this reporter, his last name's Reed, he puts this guy up as the shining example of the program.
He
Guess
kind
what?
of is.
he absolutely is. Guess what Mr. Eldai does just, 2 months later? He's now arrested. He's sitting in a jail in Twin Falls. He admitted that he lured a mentally retarded woman there in Twin Falls, lured her in, tried to get her drunk, and then sexually touched her and exposed himself to her. And, there's your shining example of the Islamic refugee program. We're taking these people from very bad cultures. We're taking them from areas where their human rights records are terrible. They mistreat women. They toss gays off of buildings. They mistreat animals. And then and they self-describe as hating America and hating Americans and our way of life.
Right.
And we seriously want to bring these folks in, give them our taxpayer money, pay all their bills, and set them up in rural America so that they can start procreating and populating our area, and we're
helping them.
And we think this is a good idea, and we're paying for it.
We're paying for it, and we're not learning from history. We're not learning from the world and the other cultures that have helped these people and brought them into their nations. And they teach and they say, we will destroy you from within. And guess what, America? We're bringing them to the place where they can do that. And we're planting them around the country. And we know, since at least 2009, this is when this was exposed on the internet, we know that they have training camps here. The FBI watches them. It's happening right now in our country. And for the media to point the finger at those of us who oppose this and who understand what Islam really is, we understand the ideology. We understand that they believe that we are their enemy and they must destroy us. We oppose them coming into this country and destroying us and raping women and raping little girls and probably little boys. And they call us racist because we oppose that. It's happening around the world. The European countries that have allowed this, you look at Germany, all the refugees who have flooded into that country, and now look at what's happening. How many machete knife attacks have we had just in the last month?
Yeah.
A couple. At least a couple.
Yep.
And in France.
And
We're not racist. We understand, and therefore we object.
We're just not stupid.
Right?
We're just not stupid. They have an agenda. It's like, don't believe your lying eyes. I mean, come on, how stupid are we? We're like cutting our own throat. It's like we're paying for the knife, and then we're grabbing the knife, and then we're cutting our own throats.
We are.
And then we're gonna be afraid to speak the truth because the liberal media says you're a racist if you oppose an ideology that's not even a race. Come on, people. We need to wake up and we need to speak back and push back. Are there moderate Muslims? Yes, absolutely. We've got some moderate Muslim friends locally. They're awesome. But listen, here's the difference. They don't want Sharia here in America. They say, you know what? Yeah, that's bad stuff. We like our freedoms here in America. And you know what? They're so moderate that if they go back to their home country, they'd probably be killed because they're too moderate. Not all terrorists are Muslims. Right. Not all Muslims are bad. Absolutely. But you know what? There's a big problem in that tent. And we keep bringing these folks over here from areas that have terrible human rights records. And a lot of these people that we're bringing over here are true believers. The CIA recently finally acknowledged that ISIS is actively exploiting these Islamic refugee programs.
Yes.
They're sneaking their guys in. ISIS claims they have 900 operatives that are highly trained, fully capable of carrying out, mass murders here in the U.S. That's a lot of lone wolves over here that they've already got, and we want to just keep the door open for them to keep exploiting that. God, we're stupid. Our leadership is stupid. We need to stand up and push back.
Agreed.
All right. All right, guys, that's a wrap. Alex, thank you for coming on.
Thank
I really
you for having
appreciate
me.
it. It was
been
fun.
Yeah.
Yes. You are the gun rights goddess guru. Infringed. Come get a copy at Patriot Pawn and Gun. And pass the Patriot Gun Show around. I'm going to see if we can get Alex on here more often. She's a rock star. All right, folks. Peace out. Thank you.
This is the Patriot Gun Show.